amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament.
But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent.
That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, you're with GB News. In a moment, headliners. But first, let's bring you the latest news headlines this hour. And February is likely to be a month of disruption to public services as schools, universities and the rail network, as well as nurses and civil servants, all plan to stage industrial action. Train drivers with the RMT and ASLEF unions will be striking on the 1st and 3rd of February in a long-running dispute over jobs, pay and conditions. The action coincides with 100,000 civil servants walking out from their jobs. Meanwhile, more than 70,000 university staff in the University and College Union will stage the first of 18 days of strike action, as well as teachers from the National Education Union striking for 7 days in February and March in a dispute over pay. Well, also in the news today, the Home Secretary says the independent inquiry looking into the police officer who murdered Sarah Everard will also consider the crimes of the former Met Police officer David Carrick. The Home Office has launched a review of public standards to make sure officers who are not fit to serve the public can be sacked. That's after the former officer, David Carrick, pleaded guilty to 49 offences, including dozens of rapes over an 18-year period. Today, he was sacked by the Metropolitan Police at a misconduct hearing held in his absence. Now, the UK and the United States have reaffirmed their support for Ukraine in its war against Russia. James Cleverly held talks in Washington today, including meeting the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken before he travelled to meet his Canadian counterpart. Cleverly and Blinken said they remained committed to supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes. The UK government has supplied Challenger 2 battle tanks to the war-torn country with hopes the United States will also announce further assistance in the coming days. President Putin is due to make what's called a big announcement tomorrow on the ongoing war with Ukraine.
What we see is dozens of countries supplying Ukraine with weapons and enforcing sanctions against Russia, and I pay particular tribute to the United States of America, the largest military and economic donor to our friends in Ukraine, reinforcing this country's long-standing commitment to protecting freedom and opposing tyranny wherever it rears its ugly head.
Heavily speaking there. Well, entertainment news to end this bulletin. Madonna has announced a worldwide tour to celebrate her career in music, which has spanned more than 4 decades. The 7-time Grammy Award-winning pop icon will put on shows in 35 cities around the world, saying, "It's a chance to give my fans the show they've all been waiting for." Madonna's so-called celebration tour, as it'll be known, kicks off this July in Canada, stopping off in the UK at the London O2 Arena in October. Madonna has sold more than 300 million records over the course of her career, making her the best-selling female music artist of all time. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB Plus radio. You're with GB News, where now it's time for Headliners.
Thank you, Polly. Hello, welcome to Headliners. We will be expertly dissecting Wednesday's newspapers. I'm your surgeon, Simon Evans. My tools this evening, Leo Kearse and Lewis Schaefer. First, let's have a quick consultation to see what Wednesday's front pages have in store for us. The Daily Mail leads with strip the rapist PC of his £22,000 pension. The Telegraph have trans law could turn parents into criminals. The Guardian goes with clamour for inquiry into officers who allowed rapists to stay in the Met, and Greta Thunberg, pictured there, detained at a coal mining protest in Germany, or rather being led away from one. The Mirror have idiotic bosses refuse nurses a fair deal but offer £40 an hour to those who cross a picket line. The Times goes with don't let them eat cake. Sweet treats in the office are like passive smoking, says Food Standards chief. And there's another picture of Greta looking quite cheerful as she is carted away on her beer. And finally, the Daily Star, huge if true. The truth is out there and there and there and there. The Star, as always, breaking ranks there. Those were your front pages. Let's take a look inside. So we begin by looking at the front page of Wednesday's Telegraph, Leo.
So this leads with the big story. The trans law could turn parents into criminals. Basically, they're looking at outlawing conversion therapy for homosexuality and for transgender people as well. Now, conversion therapy is when you try and sort of convince somebody. So for gay people, you try and convince them they're not gay. It used to be done, with prayer or, just a few decades ago, it was done in quite barbaric ways. Lou Reed, the singer of the Velvet Underground, had electric shock therapy. They'd electrocute people and show them porn, which isn't gonna. It's not going to stop you to change your sexuality. It's just going to introduce you to a kink,
He did end up married to Laurie Anderson, though, so it obviously worked to some extent for him. Or possibly he wasn't gay anyway. He was just weird.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I mean, people who when they're teens. Display behaviour that's not your traditional, 1950s stereotype of being a man or a woman. Currently, a blue-haired teacher, Guardian reader, or Liberal parent will leap on that teenager or that child and say, "Oh, you're definitely trans. You've got to transition." And are convinced, and then they're put in this pathway that they have to be affirmed, and they have to have the drugs and the everything else, the surgery.
So broadly speaking, the problem here is what amounts to a conversion therapy, because the way that some people frame it would say that any attempt to convince a child that they're not actually trans, that they're not been born into the right body, that's conversion therapy. The way you're framing it, which I have a lot of sympathy with, is to say that anyone who is showing signs of a feminine boy, oh, you must be trans.
Yeah, and
both of these could be framed as conversion therapy in a way.
Gender ideologists have sort of gripped our health service and say that we must affirm any transgender child or teenager. But a lot of these behaviours, a lot of these expressions, there's been a huge rise in the number of transgender teens. But are they really transgender? Are they just autistic or experimenting or doing something else?
It does kind of look as well as if the present government have no idea where they stand on this at all. They flip-flap back and forth. What do you think, Lewis?
Well, this reminds me, I'm quite familiar with this because back in the day, conversion therapy was against religious cults like if I can say the Moonies.
Yeah.
Like anybody, because kids used to be like taken in by these people, or maybe if they decided to become like and so their parents would send somebody in, and then there was big lawsuits. I don't think don't need to have a law.
But I remember there was Carl Sagan. You remember him?
Yes.
And he was a hero of the left, right? This was the guy who presented Cosmos, but he was like a massive advocate for science and the age of reason and let's sweep away. He wrote a book called The Demon-Haunted World, which was about the last few attempts to rid the world of superstition. Absolute hero of the left. And he talked a lot about the dangers of affirmation in therapy. There was a guy who persuaded his therapist that he visited other planets at night, by astral travel. And the therapist agreed to kind of encourage him into thinking it was all just absolute nonsense.
But didn't he needed a slap to the head?
But now this has become the side of the left.
Yeah, absolutely. If you walk into the doctors and say, I think I'm a horse, You'll be told, oh no, you're mentally ill. If you walk into the doctor's...
Or given the address of somebody who can make you a nice horse suit. I mean, that's happening, right? People dress up as horses and dogs and things.
But things that were traditionally seen, I mean, gender dysphoria is still registered as a mental illness, but for some reason we've got to affirm it. And anything under this law, anything that doesn't affirm it will be a crime. So if you're a therapist or a parent or a doctor, you won't be able to even discuss the options of anything other than full
and anybody who
full
says
hormone
anything
treatment and surgery to change the gender.
It opens up a whole kettle of fish. Is that anything is anytime you say something against what somebody's doing. Back in the day, is like in my day, it was they went against the religious nuts. Now the government are the religious
Well,
nuts.
there's a picture of Kemi Badenoch on the front page, so that gives me hope that this will get sorted out. In the Mirror, meanwhile, we have a wider issue facing the health service, possibly a more serious one, seriously.
Well, I don't know why this is big news. The nurses are on strike. And if the nurses are on strike, they need someone to be nurses, so they're willing to pay people a little bit extra just to show up to work.
Yeah.
And they're paying them £40 an hour to break a picket line, which you deserve a little extra pay for breaking.
So they're saying exactly. I mean, you have got to try and incentivise that because it is risky, and obviously there's a certain amount of, scoundrel.
Yeah, and it's temporary.
Yeah.
And it's not a full-time thing.
So the Mirror is saying it's idiotic. Would their preference be that people go untreated? Presumably, the hospitals.
Right.
The nurses want people to die.
Yeah,
that's what's happening here. I don't know why the nurses didn't play a trick and just register with these agencies, go back in and earn £40 an hour for this period of time, and then go back down to £38 an hour. How much?
And then we have the return of the Madge as well. Do you have a view on that, Lewis?
Yes, I do, because this is another old school issue. Everything is old school now. It's all coming back. I remember being quite in love with Madonna.
And there is, I've seen a few people on Twitter complaining that she's under scrutiny because she's coming back. She's in her 60s. Yeah. It's her 40th anniversary, and it's all, can she still do it? Can she put it off? And Springsteen doesn't get this, and McCartney don't get this, and all the. But there's a good reason, isn't there? They don't tend to perform in a bustier with a kind of like Gautier-style pyramid boobs. You know,
she's going to need that upholstery now.
She pays for the absolute best. I mean, if nothing else, she is a walking living.
She hangs out with a lot of young people. It's not only women who get that. I get a lot of complaints about that too.
Yeah. There's hanging out with, and then there's
young
shadowing
people. Come on.
So we go to the Times now, Leo, and we got this. Don't let them eat cake. I mean, we were going to talk about that later, but do you want to pick that up from here?
Yeah, I mean, basically, bringing a cake into the office is now seen as passive smoking. Although it's nothing like passive smoking, because you don't go around forcing a small amount of cake into everybody's mouth. People have the choice.
Yes.
People have the choice whether to eat a cake or not. Anyway, I think we're talking about it later.
We will come out.
We've also got levelling up. Is so 2019. So Sunak's Tories are now gauging up or stepping up. It sounds like
gauging up.
Yeah,
that's rubbish. I think they should just. I mean, levelling up was a bit off, but gauging up.
Yeah, it's terrible. Nobody and when you write it down, it looks like
doesn't say gagging
gauging. Or gagging. I don't know why people keep voting for politicians to change and to do things. Yeah. You want to vote for a politician that does nothing.
Yeah.
That just abolishes government.
Yeah.
All these governments that try and do things.
Well, certainly if it was a Tory government thing, levelling up, that is essentially, if it was a Labour government, that is about meddling. If you want Labour, you want meddling. So levelling up would work. But you're right.
Yeah.
How do you level something up? How do you level something down? You just level it.
The way people talk about level, the principle of levelling up, as far as I understood it, was to redistribute wealth and opportunity out of the capital and especially up to the north, right?
Yeah,
that was basically it.
Destroy wealth and capital.
The market will do that if you don't interfere, because property prices and rents in London become completely untenable for anyone who isn't earning 50 grand a year, and so they all ship up north. Yeah. That would do it if you just let that work. But as soon as
you want an argument from me, because I'm not going to give you an argument. I totally agree.
Come on to the Mail then, Lewis, as it were.
Well, the Mail. I mean, this is absolutely shocking, because this guy who I've read just a little bit about, he's done some very bad things over a very long time, and he was a policeman.
Yeah.
And what they want to do is they want to say that because he's a bad man, he should not get his pension. But are those two things related? Should you be penalised with your state pension?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the question is whether his crimes took place within the workplace, which it seems to be a slightly bit of a grey area. Exactly what
he was a policeman, and he did use the police thing to take advantage of people. So.
Do you remember the Line of Duty series? It's on to about series 5 now, but the original one, the Line of Duty, was a chap who realised he was about to be caught He'd been extraordinarily corrupt and he'd broken all kinds of rules. And the real thing was he had to be killed in the line of duty and then his family would still get his pension.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's a way out for this.
Isn't that the Harold Shipman story
it's
as
a bit
well?
late for that.
Do you remember Harold Shipman? Didn't he die, like, just in time to give his wife the estate?
Really? People said he was a monster.
He seems to be. If he was still around, if he was still around, he'd be working for the Canadian government, helping them euthanize people.
That is true, made, yeah. Ken Bruce, are we going to mention him? He's gone from Labour Radio 2. Is that a disaster for them? He's 71. That's probably old enough.
Oh, he's not dead, though.
No, he's not dead.
Right,
he's
good.
moving on to some commercial channel, and he's going to take Popmaster with him. I will miss that.
Good.
And finally, the Daily Star. I don't really understand this. What was the front page? It's something to do with the Bible and the Book of Ezekiel?
So the Daily Star's got a story about the government covering up UFOs, unidentified flying objects, which if we actually got to read the files, they'd become FOs.
Or IFOs, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this has been going on since I could read. I've been reading. I remember the 14 times way back in the 90s. I was reading about UFO cover-ups. I don't know if they're.
It is properly kind of old school and vintage, isn't
it?
The UFOs. Real kind of warm glow for that. Well, that is all for part one. Those are the front pages dealt with. Join us in a couple of minutes. We will look at the inside, the end of segregation, the start of neurodivergent police forces, as opposed to the usual divergent police forces, and a great reason to go into politics. See you in a couple of minutes.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans, my two comedy comrades, Leo Kearse and Lewis Schaefer tonight. So, Wednesday's Guardian. And does diversity and diverse cities lead to diversities and maybe even diversity?
Oh.
None of that means anything, but it's provocative.
No,
That's
but
what I want to...
I tell you, it's smart. It's just a sign of your intelligence. That's why people don't like you.
It is
because
this
you're just too smart for
diversity
them.
is becoming this kind of, it's like it's one of those words, like if you say it often enough, it just turns into nothing. Do you know what I mean?
It's just a spin, and that's what it is. It's the Guardian. It's spinning something which could be potentially horrible that people don't like into something good. It says that ethnic segregation in England and Wales is on the wane, research finds. And what they're finding out is that some neighbourhoods are becoming way more diverse, which means way more minority ethnically Right.
So they don't mean like Brixton is becoming more white, for instance, which has happened a little bit, you know, but that's not what they're talking about, right? Or
No,
is
it's
it?
not at all, because they call it the rainbow, but it doesn't imply any increase in orange, white, or yellow.
Yellow.
It's just
no
brown,
Richard of York.
Brown and black. So there's been a 10% increase in diversity, which means it actually means that areas are becoming less and less white.
And it is still the big major cities, isn't it? Although there are one or two funny ones. I think Boston in Lincolnshire has become strangely diverse.
Yeah, from a low base, but tenfold.
Yeah.
Tenfold
so that's
increase in
10
diversity.
black people instead of one now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, if diversity is strength, I mean, I'm worried Britain could become too strong.
Too strong for its own good.
This could cause problems. But I mean, this is one of these things that, depending, as you mentioned, depending on how it's presented, it either exists or doesn't exist. So, you know, when people say London's so great because it's so diverse and it's a cultural melting pot and there's people from all around the world here, that's good. But if somebody says, I don't like the way that it doesn't feel English anymore. It's diverse. Then they're like, you're being racist. It's not.
They're
happening.
identifying the same phenomenon, but you're allowed to either be neutral about it or happy about it. But exactly.
And it's the same with if white people move to an area, then that's bad because
that's gentrification, isn't it?
White people are automatically bad. So
and they do have huge think pieces in the New Yorker and the Atlantic and so on about that happening in parts of San Francisco. I can't believe it. This used to be a Colombian neighborhood. I mean, well, maybe for the last 20 years, but not for, historically speaking. So,
Is it wrong for me to say that I like white people?
I think it is,
All right.
Maybe get away with it on GB News, but that's the only place.
Right. If you do like them anyway, they have helpfully included the places which are least diverse in the country. Allerdale and Copeland in Cumbria, that's the Lake District. The Staffordshire Moorlands, which sounds completely empty. It sounds like the sort of place that there might be still police trying to find a couple of bodies.
Just a dead hazel tree with wind whistling through it. You know?
Exactly. A sturdy blackthorn. And Redcar, Cleveland and Anglesey.
Yeah, so in other words, at the actual peripheral of the entire island.
Being pushed out. I mean, I do like interesting, diverse neighbourhoods. The ones I find more worrying are the ones where, if that's what they don't mean ghettoification, if they don't mean that our whole neighbourhoods have become purely Bangladeshi, which kind of feels like they have less chance of assimilation and more... then maybe that is good. But there's always this suspicion that's not how the word is being used.
Can I say that I like black people? Am I allowed to say that?
You can just say that you like, you kind of rhythm.
No, you're saying that. I wasn't saying that.
Times now, Leo, and a different and arguably more profound kind of diversity is being sought by the police. They are looking for diversity of brain operating system.
That's right. So police chiefs have backed a plan to boost the number of neurodiverse recruits. So they're looking for true inclusion and acceptance of those who think differently. They say it'll bring unique perspectives, skills and talents while creating a safe and judgment-free environment. I mean, neurodiversity also includes people who think Jesus lives in their sandwich toaster and speaks to them. So,
but they're talking about primarily, I think, talking about varieties and flavours of autism, aren't they? Spectrum disorders. That's where the word neurodivergent now mainly refers to Asperger's or autism.
Yeah, so they're saying people who can see patterns and hyper-focus for long periods of time, have high levels of resilience, are some of the skills and talents that certain types of autism. And in fact, I worked in criminal intelligence, and then I worked for an intelligence consultancy, and it was a running joke that we were all autistic.
Yeah, I think a lot of people now seem to identify as slightly autistic, and it seems to be it has been a genuine success story. The degree to which that is no longer a stigma. A lot of people claim it almost a little bit more than you feel they're really entitled to.
Maybe a bit too much. I think what they're they're associating autism with the Rain Man, like these people are just like.
Well, do you know who I associated with? Did you ever watch Elementary? It was an American version of Sherlock Holmes, updated Sherlock Holmes, and with Johnny Lee Miller as Sherlock, and he was essentially playing him as sort of Spectrum. But it was very compelling. He was a very charismatic actor, and it was quite an insight, I thought, because you could if you read the Sherlock Holmes stories. You could easily frame him as that seems to be essentially what he is. Unbelievably indifferent to how he is perceived.
Could I interrupt you? Could you do me a favour and run by these analogies before the show?
You can do a bit of reading.
I don't have egg on my faces.
Have you not seen Elementary? You've got 8 glorious seasons to catch up on.
I mean, it'd be great if they had somebody whose neurodivergence enables them to actually respond to a crime and turn up and do some investigation instead of just giving you a crime number.
Yes, a little bit. Just picking up more people who are less sympathetic. Anyway, the Telegraph now, and patients on antidepressants are being warned against going cold turkey.
Yeah.
This is just 3 weeks after the end of Christmas.
After
the cold turkey would have been gone by now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this is a Telegraph, and there's 1 in 6 people are depressed, say the health chiefs.
Wow.
And I can understand why, because they're constantly telling people that they're depressed. I myself went into the doctor's office, and within a second, the doctor said to me, "You were depressed," and gave me a prescription for citalopram or something.
Yeah.
Citalopram.
Have you been?
That's an ancient book of Welsh magic, isn't it? Elysian, no, something like that. But
is that another one of those references I know
think so.
you're talking about?
Maybe it's another name for
another book
for Merlin, I think. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
And it says that 1 in 6 are depressed now. It used to be 1 in 10.
Yeah.
So that's like an increase of like 80% or something.
Serious point, though. You're absolutely right. The doctors will prescribe antidepressants before they try. If they
this is because the happy people are dying.
Yeah, right.
So you know, all the happy people are dying out and leaving the depressed people.
Because the happy people running around without masks on and so on. You mean?
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
But and of the people who are depressed or who are on antidepressants, there's 8.3 million people in England on antidepressants. 2/3 of them are female. And this, I think, shows that women aren't satisfied with modern life. It suits men. All this casual sex, drinking.
Do you know what it
not
goes
having a
with?
family.
It correlates even more than the sex breakdown is the political spectrum. Liberal women, as they call them in America, are the most. Yeah,
of course, the liberal women. They're all like, I know how to change the world. I know exactly what everybody else should be doing, but in my own personal life, I'm a complete car crash.
I'm afraid it's true, but I do think doctors should think twice about prescribing these things quite so often because it can be a lifetime. It can be a life sentence.
It can be, and even the other kinds of drugs are really, a friend of mine who was given Valium, and it took forever to get off. When I was given these pills, I went and picked them up, and I took the 28 pills home, and I opened up the box, and I said to myself, if I take this, I'm going to take this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I
another 2.5 years.
Yeah, and I took the picture, and I took the pill, and I walked to the toilet, and I threw it in the toilet.
Good man. And you've been
now
miserable ever since.
Now it's in the water supply, and I'm getting it, along with all that progesterone.
Wednesday's Mail now, Leo, and an unusually robust assessment of the world's political elite from the Mail.
Yes, the Mail is reporting from Davos, where demand from prostitutes is skyrocketing during the annual World Economic Forum. So they'll tell us this is where all the politicians and the top leaders from all around the world, the business people get together.
They normally go to Blackpool or Brighton. It's the same story, isn't it, when they have party conferences?
Yeah, I mean, basically prostitutes go where the rich guys are. They want to have sex.
Wait. Did he just say that the same women who are flying into Davos are going to Blackpool
No,
to go
not
to
the same class, obviously. These people are going off to service.
Because these women are 700 euros for an hour or 2,300 euros for the whole night, plus travel expenses. You got to pay for a bus fare on top of that.
Wow.
So that's where all your taxes are going. This is what all these politicians in Davos, they're all getting together to work out how to make our lives worse. Oh, you can't have a gas stove. You've got to eat insects. You're not allowed to have any. You're not allowed to have gas central heating anymore.
Meanwhile,
they're just.
And there was a photo. I don't suppose we got a copy of it, but there was a photo in the Mail. If you want to have a look on their site, you'll see it. Of I think this is one, Salome Belthus, who is one of these sex workers, and she is absolutely stunning. But more importantly, her photograph, it's like a perfect photo shoot. It looks like a Calvin Klein high-end, I mean, like they have marketing materials. She wasn't snapped on the seafront at Davos.
Yeah, they're making a lot of money. I mean, this is a serious. In Switzerland, it's actually legal, but they still they dress. Apparently, one of the prostitutes is saying she dresses in an executive suit because she wants to blend in with all the.
Wouldn't it be a better way? It's also where people go, of course, to off themselves, isn't it? I can't remember what it's called. Dignitas, right? Yeah. That's probably more than 2,300, isn't it? Why don't they go and see, like one of these high-end prostitutes?
And then cheers them up.
Yeah,
you got no
they
money.
die of a heart attack halfway through. I'm sure that something could be arranged.
But then you've got no money left if it doesn't cheer you up. You can't, unless you.
There's got to be some business model.
Well, all I know is this: is my girlfriend watches this show,
right?
And I just want to let you know, Lily, that my girlfriend Lily should maybe
don't pimp her out, please.
I made that up. I don't have a girlfriend.
Wednesday's Times now, Lewis, for the first time since record began, China has been chipped, possibly cracked.
Well, it's the population falls in China for the first time in 60 years. And that's, I mean, I think that's good. I mean, they were trying to make the population drop forever, and they've actually achieved it, and suddenly it's bad news. Number one, you cannot believe that anything that China says. So we don't know if the population's dropping. We don't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this isn't something they'd lie and say is happening because it doesn't make them look good. They're going to get overtaken by India as the most populous country.
So what? How many troops do you need to defend?
Wasn't there a story we did here a few months ago where another country, was it Afghanistan, had massively no, it was not. It was Sri Lanka, I think. Was it had massively underestimated the amount of population they had or something, like about 10%? These are rough figures, I think.
So why would they say it then?
Well,
Simon.
it is interesting, but they are probably extrapolating from data they get in hospitals about the birth rate. It's rather than the sheer number of people, but they are able to monitor the birth.
And this is happening pretty much across the world, and it's especially happening in the West as well. So our birth rate is so low, and we're facing a population cliff. And it's because politicians have a 4-year window, so they're not looking to who's going to replenish the workforce in 20 years' time. And
so you're right. All like Central American countries that only a few years ago, America was panicking because it's open border and all the Guatemalans were going to come. Even they have dropped below replacement level.
It's crazy. I mean, it's nice to see population falling in China for a reason other than human-caused famine. A communism-caused famine.
Absolutely true. It's an extraordinary country for tinkering and failing, though. There's no question about that. Peter Zihan is the guy to watch on YouTube if you want to get an assessment of demographics for the next couple of decades. It's bleak. That's all for part 2. Part 3 is going to rock, I assure you, with Twitter Taliban racist face and Kevin Spacey back in court and also on the award stage. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight back to it. With Wednesday's Guardian, we have their characteristically fair-minded approach to Elon Musk, and the paper are keeping an eye on Taliban's Twitter account, it seems.
Yeah, so Twitter account verifications bought by the Taliban. You know, Elon Musk changed it so you could buy your blue check mark. So the ones that the Taliban bought appear to have been removed after people expressed outrage that the social media platform had given them blue check marks to Afghanistan's hardline Islamist rulers. Now I don't know who the real Taliban are.
No.
And I don't know who I'm getting the right advice from. You know, I want to be following the scriptures properly.
There is a certain rhythm and a certain timbre to a genuine Taliban tweet that you can usually identify if it's coming from the heart. I mean, it's quite interesting. Elon Musk was accused about a month ago of essentially just ruining Twitter, driving it into the ground. Everyone announced they were going to go and set up on Mastodon. I don't see much of this exodus happening, and actually I think a lot of it is actually more functional than it used to be. Yeah. The only thing I have felt is some of the older accounts, not the Taliban, but some of the guys I used to follow who were banned, they did transgress, and now they're back. I don't know, it feels a bit weird somehow,
Yeah.
some of them. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. I don't know, if, for their point of view, you know, it was harsh that they were banned, but I don't know, some of these things, it's like playing tennis without the net, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You should feel like there are some lines you shouldn't cross, because that made it feel quite...
It takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And I think what this is so shocking is that it's a freedom of speech issue. But I don't see Leo Kurz being upset about this. Did he express any concern for the Taliban
I don't know who
rights?
the Taliban are now.
Now you don't know, but
speech.
shouldn't the Taliban have a right to speak? And freedom
They
of
have a
speech?
right to speak.
Where is
Still on there.
Andrew Doyle in all of this?
It's a right to verification rather than the right to speak. It's
Yeah.
a right to speak under a certain banner with a certain kind of little medallion on it.
Yeah.
Typically and traditionally, the blue check mark, it's actually a white check mark, and we would call it the blue checks.
Yeah.
They are
The blue is
regarded
the
as...
bought one.
Yeah, that's right. But they're regarded as being usually the slightly pompous, arrogant journalist class. You know, it's a kind of irrelevance when you're the
Washington
Taliban.
Post.
Exactly, yeah. Somebody whose opinion must be taken seriously because they've got one of these, I work for the tech desk at the New York... Anyway, Wednesday's Telegraph. This is yet another example of why OnlyFans is the new LinkedIn, I think, Lewis. Is that correct?
Well, this is one of those stories because it's at the World Economic Forum. They've got 1 million people there, and one of the guys, this Thierry Delaporte, who's from Wipro.
Yeah.
Or is it Wipro?
I don't know them. Apparently it's a big company. I never heard of them.
It's a very big company.
Thierry, I remember, because that was the name of my French exchange student when I was 14.
And in the books we got in school, they were all, called Thierry.
Yes,
Maybe
right.
this is the
You might have
guy
been named after that with Claudette and Marie France.
And you don't even mention Thierry Henry. You are so out of it, really.
Yeah, I know,
Isn't that
Thierry.
your team? Aren't you an Arsenal supporter?
No, they're top of the league at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, so there you go.
Yes,
How do I know that? Anyway, so it just says that this guy from there, he says that people aren't looking at the dude's email. He says that the
young people never read their emails.
That young people don't read their emails. He's got to communicate with Gen Z on Instagram. And he's like, this is a guy, he's like one of the richest people in the world probably, and his company is complaining about his staff not reading his email. Why don't you just tell them?
Tell them, yeah.
To read the emails, otherwise you're going to lose your job.
Yeah, your next email is going to be firing you.
Yeah.
You can't fire them because they won't read the email. They'll still keep turning up.
So it's just one more thing, is that we got to be nice to young people.
It does kind of feel to me like a decent-sized corporation like Wipro, or whatever they're called, who I would imagine are fairly sort of tech-savvy, should have a direct line to their employees. Do you know what I mean? That wouldn't be email or Instagram or anything. It should be their own, bespoke servant. Do you know what I mean? That makes, you get a little shock in your heart.
It should be part of their job to read their email.
But we all know you have an email account that is endlessly... I mean, my God, the amount of mail order companies. Any time I've ordered a bracelet for my wife for Christmas 3 years ago, they continually think they may have another sale.
You know what? Stop showing off.
Yeah.
But this has got security issues. You can't be sending messages on Instagram, serious work messages. It could be hacked. It's not. I mean, it's a completely third party. It makes
Snapchat is saying. I mean, that's no good. You get a message that disappears after 24 hours. It's like, where was that meeting? Oh, it's gone. Wednesday's Telegraph, and it seems now that the Science Museum is struggling to distinguish boys from girls. Might be a job for the Victoria and Albert Museum, just across the road.
We might be returning to those values.
Yeah.
The Science Museum has removed a trans-exclusive display after... I mean, when they say trans-exclusive...
It was trans-inclusive.
It was trans-inclusive, but it's just a transgender display after complaints that it was propaganda and not science. So the cabinet displayed a fake penis to be worn under clothing as a packer to provide a male appearance, a compression vest to flatten breasts so you look more male, and also testosterone patches which induce the changes in your body, your deeper voice and hair on your chin to make you look like a fella. And it was titled Boy or Girl, and it displayed quotes describing the transition from the wrong body as a hero's journey. These are quite, politicised, loaded terms. Saying it's the wrong body, I mean, it's the body, but you can't say
hero's journey.
It's not a scientific term. And hero's journey, I mean, the glorification of this and making it seem like, they're making it the cool thing for kids to do. And this is part of the problem. This is why
hero's journey in the Science Museum should be Neil Armstrong, shouldn't it, really?
Yeah.
Or arguably some sort of intrepid explorer into the jungle or something.
Not until Neil Armstrong transitions. If he transitions, then he's a hero.
Neil Arms, upper body strength.
Yeah, Neil.
What do you think, Lewis? I don't know if you're a regular visitor to the Science Museum.
I am. I bring my kids there. Maybe give them some ideas.
Yeah, it is. It's a fun place. I think it is a shame when these things get kind of co-opted into progressive political activities. They don't need to know about that.
I don't think they're being co-opted. I think this is what people believe now. It's so deep. It would be even weird if it wasn't included in the Science Museum.
Wow! Imagine they had a display in which they said the abuse of science, and it was and
it included a scalpel.
And we'd go abuse of science through the ages, and they would have the angel of death at Auschwitz or whatever, and up to the modern day. Some people would draw that line with every bit as much conviction as they're saying it's a hero's journey.
And I think if this display wouldn't have come under any attacks, any complaints, if they hadn't used these loaded terms. Described it as a hero's journey, described it as the wrong body. I mean, it's the body, and it's a journey. It's a journey you go on. It's procedures you
And as
undertake.
they say, if it's the wrong body, who made the mistake? Anyway, Wednesday's Mail has found a woman trying to combine art, drama and astrophysics and found the project hampered by what else? Sexism and white supremacy.
Yeah. Yes, it's mental. I mean, am I allowed to say the word mental? It's basically saying that astrophysicist moans her field is riddled with white supremacy and sexism, and it says this woman who's out there at Colorado College takes an unconventional approach to physics by comparing human stars to. I didn't really understand it. Basically, I mean,
she found one example. I read the story. She found one example of slightly kind of macho locker room slang being termed something about certain kinds of stars were the bad boys of astrophysics or something, and it was ages ago.
And it wasn't a recognised term.
No,
it was just something that somebody had, said in a book.
Blog or something.
This star's the bad boy of this. It's not like a widely used term. The term that's actually used is blue straggler, which isn't a masculine, hyper-masculine term. And also, the method.
I don't know what it sounds like, but it sounds like a little bit of hemorrhoids or something. I don't know what it is.
Well, that could denote somebody who maybe has a hard time getting around. It's a disabled person, or
they have white dwarves and red giants. These are not sort of white supremacists. That's what I've gone for.
They're white and they're a dwarf. Oh my God!
And space is black. Why is the empty space black?
Dark matter.
It's not black up there.
She complains that the metaphors used to describe stars are often very violent. It's like, because it's the most violent and huge, chemical changes in the universe.
And it's hard to communicate that to people because when you look up at the night sky, it seems the most utterly serene thing imaginable, doesn't it? All these little twinkly white dots.
Yeah.
In fact, they're the most violent explosions that will ever happen in the universe.
That exactly is not true. And absolutely. I mean, that's when I read this thing. I couldn't even read any further because whenever somebody says that they're a physicist or an astrophysicist, I know they're a complete idiot.
She literally has a PhD in astronomy. I cannot
you know what?
understand that.
Even the smartest astrophysicist is no smarter than the average person looking up at the sky.
Metro next, and Kevin Spacey's life is certainly a case of swings and roundabouts, though hopefully not literally.
Oh, boo.
So Kevin Spacey has picked up a Lifetime Achievement Award in Italy days after appearing in court in London via video link where he denied fresh accusations of sexual offences against men, I believe, which is ridiculous. You can't sexually assault a man unless you go full Barrymore. But he's 63. He's facing these new charges, having previously denied 5 allegations. Did he ever get officially convicted?
I don't know what the end result was. There was stuff thrown at him from when he was time at the National Theatre. No, the Old Vic here, wasn't it? But it's like stuff that historical offences come forward. I mean, it's very difficult to know whether these are allegations, but we all understand that there are some allegations that should be taken more seriously than others.
Well, I know somebody who's working at the Old Vic, or the Queen Vic, whatever it's called, who was
not the Queen Vic. Who was like in EastEnders. Kevin
Spacey, made an approach to him and touched him, but he just got go away.
Everybody knows that. When I first came to this country 20 years ago, when the first time you walked past the Old Vic, they pointed to the park across the street. That's where Kevin Spacey
walks his dog at 3 a.m.
yeah. That's Kevin Spacey's park.
It is kind of a shame because he was an amazing actor and he did some great work at the Old Vic. I don't know
that good. He wasn't that good.
I thought he was
playing Kevin Spacey. I think all this
Kaiser Soze was fantastic.
But he's a loser, and he should be a lesson to everybody watching how not to defend yourself. He kept quiet. He let the whole thing waft around without coming out. He should have done a Johnny Depp thing, and just said, "Hey, this is complete rubbish.
He did manage to introduce the phrase, "I now choose to live my life as a gay man," into the language, which is now how it's a bit like Gwyneth Paltrow with her conscious, unconscious decoupling.
He thought that was going to be a trump card. He's like, well, guess what, guys? Guess what?
You all think I've been...
minority, so you can't touch me.
You all think I've been groping blokes. Actually, I'm gay. It's a bit like that South Park thing. Oh, well, that's it for part 2. Part 3, rather. That's part 3 in the bag. My God, we're whipping through it tonight. Our last section coming up has tips for nuclear survival, poo pills, yeah, that's right, and GB News gets pranked. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
And welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans, and Lewis and Leo in the tepid seats. Lewis, back to the Telegraph. They have recommendations for TV shows that send you to sleep. Obviously, ours not high on the list, I hope.
Yeah, well, these are the big questions of our time. How do you fall asleep? What should you watch before you fall asleep?
Yeah.
So it's they actually done study. They say watch a suspenseful thriller is better, just as good or better than watching something really boring.
That's interesting. Counterintuitive. Yeah, I suppose it depends what you mean by suspenseful, like a private eye kind of thing, rather than is the world going to end?
Yeah, well, these are things that you would know, because you know everything and I don't know anything.
I don't know.
But it's on Netflix, How to Get Away with Murder. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen it. It sounds like it's probably kind of like, what do they call it?
A murder.
Police procedural. One of
Yeah,
those
it's
kind
got
of
the
things.
word murder
Those are quite dull because there's a lot of information.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. Obviously, it's going to make you go to sleep because all the shows on Netflix are super, super boring. And also, they go on for ages. Like that, you see that thing, Making a Murderer, where it showed, it went on, I don't know how many episodes, they're all an hour long. It was going, following the court trial. I felt like the actual trial would have been shorter than that.
The only one I watched, I think it was called The Jinx, about a property developer, like a very wealthy man in New York who killed his previous wives or something, and everyone watched. Did you see that? And it was only 3 parts.
Right.
But they are quite detailed. You have to focus, don't you? You have to pay attention.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a show I genuinely couldn't watch before bedtime, which is Game of Thrones, just because blood and gore. Actual blood and gore rather than suspense. I hope they don't get. Oh, no, they have been.
I can't watch Postman Pat because it's on at about 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's not when I go
Well,
to
you
bed.
could probably use YouTube if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I do find actually sleeping now is pretty easy if I just read anything, like about 2 paragraphs of text about anything at all. It used to have to be dull, but now any kind of processing of text.
I'm trying to remember, because every single night I try to go to sleep, and everything gets me upset.
Right.
I mean, it's like there's not one thing, and I watch things that, in theory, I watch things about outer space.
Yeah.
And physicists, and I get so angry at these physicists.
You get angry at astrophysicists. I get scared. This is the things. I'm not. I mean, Game of Thrones because there was literal blood, but I'm not scared of being beheaded. I'll tell you one I did find I couldn't sleep after was Anthony Hopkins' film called The Father about a man with dementia. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying because I'm convinced I've got dementia all the time. Anytime I lose my keys, here it is. It started. Mail now. Useful tips on how to survive a nuclear bomb. Nothing remotely scary there, but not the 50s revival I was hoping for. But,
but apparently we're closer to nuclear Armageddon than ever before with Putin invading Ukraine. Obviously, he's been saber-rattling. He's been saying right from the start, he's like, I've got nuclear weapons and I'll use them, and I'll definitely use them. And he says this every time. Every time we cross another red line, we provide more, tanks. We get more involved in the war. He says, "Well, I'm definitely going to use them next time," but he hasn't so far. I'm not so worried anymore. I feel confident buying a flat in the centre of London on the 15th floor, looking out over where the bomb's going to go off. But scientists have revealed the safest places to take shelter. So the best thing to do is to be inside a concrete building. I mean, this was on a serious...
Not a period dwelling.
None of that. None of that.
No brick and flint. No,
nothing like that. No mud huts. This is why Nagasaki and Hiroshima, which are the only 2 places where nuclear weapons have been used against civilians. This is part of the reason the damage was so hard was because timber buildings. They all caught fire.
All those
they
paper
provided
doors.
No protection. And then you're wearing a kimono. It doesn't protect you at all. At least we wear duffel coats here, so that's going to provide something. You have futons. Don't know what that means. But so the advice.
You don't know what futons.
Why would a futon be bad for?
Well, you hide under a futon mattress.
When I was a kid, because I'm from that era, we used to do these drills. They don't do them anymore. These kind of drills. It was like the COVID of its day, where they put you into a pan.
Duck and cover.
And we used to duck. You used to get down on your hands and knees, and you used to stick your head between your legs and kiss your butt. Goodbye. Basically, because you're going to die. It doesn't matter where you are.
Well, this is the thing. They tell you how to survive a nuclear blast, but not why. I mean, that is a fair question, isn't it? Is it really going to be worth sticking around for?
Well, apparently, the civilization would recover within a decade or 2. I mean, look at Japan. They had the 2, pretty large-scale nuclear blasts. They're doing absolutely fine now.
But there are other countries. I mean, Haiti has an earthquake, and in 1964, and they've yet to recover from that. It does depend a little bit.
I think
on,
cultural
resilience.
issues could. But anyway, just in case it lands tonight in the UK, so be inside a concrete building, position yourself in the corner of the room facing the blast. Assume there's concrete walls. Don't stand facing the blast if you're just.
How do you know where the blast is going to come from?
Well, you get that from the weather report.
You can see it wherever your retinas have burned out. Follow that direction. So avoid windows, corridors, and doors. If there's not enough time hiding in the corner of a corridor is safer than being in the middle. Take shelter under tables and chairs.
It's the lyrics to Life During Wartime by Talking Heads. We have to move on. Wednesday's Times now, and something tells me that this message will find a warm welcome in your Spartan philosophy.
Yeah, well, it's the most important message of the day, which is office cake culture is a health hazard. Warms the food regulator. And this is actually true because I actually know people who work. And they go to the office, and they show me all the food that comes in, and they've actually complained about this. A friend of mine works for the buses.
And there is a kind of misery likes company vibe, isn't there? People who overeat on cakes and donuts love to bring them in and share them around and turn what is essentially a pathology into some kind of, character quirk and a generosity.
No, cakes are delicious.
No, of course they're delicious, and they make you love the person who gave them to you.
And people don't know what can you bring in. I bring in a salami.
Biltong.
Yeah. No one's interested in your biltong, but they are interested in cake.
Chewy piece of beefy shoe leather. That's what
you can bring in a CBD product.
CBD vaping device.
Yeah.
People don't want that. They want the real thing.
My kids, when they were at school, and I think they've stopped it now, but until the age of about 14, it was, if it was your birthday, you took a cake in and you handed it all around, and it was considered to be mean if you didn't. But that caused a sugar crash, and you might zone out in the middle of period 3 and fail your exams, and your life spirals into misery and depression.
With the sugar. But the thing is, this is such an English story, which is it's all about sugar and cake. And English people, I think, have more sugar per capita than any people in the world. You can look that up.
Including America?
Yes, including America. They eat more sugar. They put sugar in their tea. Yes.
No.
My mother certainly did. Anyway, we have to move on, but staying with nutrition, the Metro...
I just made that up.
The Metro has a possible new career avenue for Lewis to explore here.
Leo's.
But Lewis's poo is perfect, I would imagine.
I don't know. So this is a Channel 4 documentary that explores swallowing other people's perfect poos in a bid to actually help your health. So other people's poos can contain, microbiotics and things like that you normally
some
get
people
from
don't have.
Activia. But yes, you get these, and and some people suffer from antibiotics or whatever, wiped out their gut flora.
So the poos come in one of those little time capsules, presumably. It's not you're not spooning it out of a bowl. You get it.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Taste,
you don't have to toss Lewis's salad.
No,
it's nothing as bad as that. But also, a friend of the show, Paul, he was telling us that you get osmosis of poo particles going up through seats on public transport.
Oh, right.
You get it anyway.
Good osmosis.
Can I just say, this is one of those stories. Microbiome, this whole story is complete BS. The stomach, The stomach is a completely fluid thing. You don't need to, germs don't sit there and just hang out there forever. It's
some people need more. I think the gut is a very clever thing, right? It has the intelligence of a small dog. We know that.
But it's based, yes it is, and it's attached to the brain, the whole thing, the brain and the vagus nerves. But at the end of the day, your gut biome has everything to do with what you eat at the present moment.
Do you know I went into, because we're opposite a well-known food store and they have the yellow label thing, and it allows you to experiment, because we get in late at night. 8:30 last night, I bought a chicken and kimchi wrap, and I dismantled it and threw away the wrap part because I hate that pita bread stuff. But the kimchi, I'd not eaten kimchi. This is like a very high... fermented.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. And I felt really good today. I think it might be the kimchi.
Right. It might be the kimchi. This has nothing to do with the story, Simon.
Yeah, it does. It's like about, it's better than eating poo, right?
You should not eat poo.
I don't think M&S, if that other stores are available.
You can check it out, see if I know what I'm talking about.
Finally, let us take a moment to enjoy The Independent celebrating the humiliation of our colleague Andrew Doyle by Everton fans. I don't know if we have this clip, do we? But you can explain it anyway, Lewis.
Oh, this is like a tragic story, because I love Andrew Doyle so much. I mean, he's given me a chance to be on TV. God bless the guy. But it was a very, very funny is that the show that I sometimes am on, which is Free Speech Nation, takes random questions from people out in the ether, and someone wrote in pretending to be Bill Kenwright, who is the head of Everton.
And deeply unpopular with Everton fans now, to the extent that the police have advised him not to attend his own matches because they can't guarantee his security.
He's like the Prince Harry of Everton.
Yeah, he is.
But he was beloved for many, many years. And it's his team. Doesn't he own the entire team?
This is how it goes. But now they're saying he should sell because they're in the relegation zone. And
oh, you know what it is? The problem is it's like their noisy neighbor. Someday that they will be bigger than Liverpool.
So they send in this message, and
the message says, I've been in charge of my company for almost 30 years. Almost everyone wants me to leave. And I've told them that they've had good times with me and that I should stay on the job. What should I do? And Andrew didn't see this as a joke.
I was on this show. I didn't get the joke.
We have to wrap it up there. Poor Andrew Doyle. He's an excellent man. That's it for this evening. Thanks to my brilliant guests, Leo Kirsten, Lewis Schaefer. I'll be back with headliners tomorrow at 11 again, with Leo once again and Nick Dixon. It's neck and neck with me and Leo at the moment. Remember that Headliners is repeated at 1 a.m. If you're watching the 5 a.m. repeats, stay tuned for the breakfast show just after the break. If you've only been watching tonight, it is now midnight coming up. We're about to ease into Wednesday. I do hope you've enjoyed our company. Tomorrow I will see you back here at 11 and then again at Thursday morning, and so you see it just rolls on and on. Anyway, that's all from us tonight. Thank you very much. Good night.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain.